Hi everybody, my name is Radu Coravu and I am pleased to host today's webinar where we'll explore publishing DITA content to various output formats using oXygen XML Editor. The webinar is presented by Alex Gitianu. He is one of our senior developers and he has been working behind the scenes during the last years on many of the DITA editing features that you enjoy using with oXygen. We have an impressive array of exciting DITA-related webinars scheduled this year, all presented by Alex. In May, we hosted a webinar called Getting Started with DITA, and continued with a webinar called Managing DITA Reuse in June. And this autumn, Alex will show you some of the neat DITA 1.3 editing features presented in oXygen. If you cannot attend this entire presentation, or if you want to see past oXygen webinars, we record all our webinars and they can be watched either on the oXygen XML YouTube channel, and I will give you the link to the channel, or on our past events page, a special page we have on our website. After Alex's presentation, we will have a dedicated questions and answers section, followed by a quick overview of upcoming events. But you do not need to wait until the question and answer section to ask questions. You can ask questions at any time during the webinar using the questions panel from the GoToWebinar interface. A couple of my colleagues who have already joined the webinar will answer your questions. And at the end, we'll get a look at all those questions and try to come up with some answers for a couple of them. We created 2 polls for today, and I'm gonna launch the first poll. What main output formats do you obtain from your DITA content? You can have multiple answers. We are interested as developers to know about what future improvements should we make and on what specific branch of this DITA publishing business should we orient more resources. So I will wait a couple of seconds for all of you to vote. Until now, no, I'm not gonna spoil. No spoilers now. Okay, I'm closing this poll. Let me share the results with you. Lots of people are still considering PDF as their main publishing format, followed second by online help. Second poll, what online help output formats are you currently producing? Are you producing, for example, oXygen WebHelp Responsive, which is a new feature in oXygen 18.0? Are you still producing oXygen WebHelp Classic, which is the classic tri-pane output with a table of contents on the left and the main content on the right? Or are you producing output dedicated to mobile devices using oXygen WebHelp Mobile? Or are you just using another third-party DITA Open Toolkit plugin, for example, to produce online help? Just a couple of minutes for all of you to vote. Again, this will help us to focus our limited amount of resources to a particular field that we need to develop in oXygen. Closing and sharing the results with you. It seems that most of you are still using the oXygen WebHelp Classic, the classic tri-pane output, but some of you have started to migrate to oXygen WebHelp Responsive. So thanks a lot for voting in the poll, and without further delay, I will pass control to Alex. Hi, Alex.
Hello Radu, hello everybody. Thank you all for attending this webinar. It is our third from a series of webinars focused on DITA, in which we've seen how to create DITA content, how to achieve reuse, and how to profile your content. And finally, it is time to focus on the last step, on publishing. Before we begin, just a few words about today's agenda. We will begin with an overview of the publishing system in oXygen, after which we'll focus on the WebHelp output and talk a bit also about the feedback aspect of your documentation. Next, we will present a PDF transformation, but one that relies on CSS rather than XSLFO. And last, we will see how publishing can help us in the reviewing process from our documentation. The publishing system in oXygen is based on the DITA Open Toolkit. oXygen comes bundled with two versions of the Open Toolkit, 1.8 and version 2. So you have access to all the outputs available in the Open Toolkit, like HTML and PDF and many more. We've also integrated the DITA for Publishers plugins developed by Elliot Kimber, and that means that you'll have a few additional outputs, like EPUB, for example. And besides that, we've implemented a number of specific outputs ourselves, namely the WebHelp with different flavors, responsive, classic, with or without feedback, and a PDF output that, like I said, is based on CSS. And all of these outputs, we've implemented them as DITA Open Toolkit plugins. But even though oXygen comes bundled with two versions of the Open Toolkit, like I said, sometimes users are forced to use a specific version of the toolkit, one that is maybe heavily customized according to their needs. So having that in mind, we've made it very easy to use this custom toolkit instead of the built-in ones. And let me show you what you have to do for that. You should go to Options, Preferences, and on the DITA Preferences page, you can switch between one of the built-in open toolkits, or you can specify the path to your own custom toolkit. And that's all you need to know, all you need to do. After that, all your specializations will be detected, all your specific outputs will be available to transform, etc. To publish in oXygen, you must be familiar with the scenario concept, which is basically just a configuration for obtaining a specific type of output. For example, HTML or PDF and so on. Let's take a look at the default scenarios. So I'll switch to oXygen, and in the DITA Maps Manager, I'll invoke the Configure Transformation Scenario action on the toolbar. And these are all the default scenario, each one representing a different type of output. Now, if you are looking for an output and you don't see a scenario for it, what you have to do is click New, select DITA-OT transformation, and you'll see a list with all the available outputs. And you just select one and click OK, and a scenario will be created for that output, so you can publish into that output. Now let's take a closer look at at a scenario and see exactly what it contains. So let's take the XHTML scenario, for example. So the easiest way to configure a DITA Open Toolkit transformation is through its parameters. Each type of output has its own parameters that can influence its behavior in specific ways. For example, for the XHTML transformation, you have an argument with args CSS that allows you to give an additional CSS for styling output. And later on, we will actually use this parameter ourselves. The next tab, it's called filters. Now, if you've profiled your content, and in the previous webinars we did that, we had two phone models, and so we've marked with metadata which content was intended for a specific model. So if you've done that, then a deliverable consists both in the DITA map and a filter file. So the filter file, the DITA val file, controls which content gets published in a specific deliverable. And this filters tab in oXygen gives you the opportunity to specify this filter file. Now, a filter file is just an XML file. By default, everything is permitted, everything goes through the filter into the output. So you need to write rules to exclude specific content. So for example, if I want to publish my end user documentation, then I will say in my filter that it should exclude everything that is marked with a metadata audience as being intended for a technician. The next tab in oXygen is the Advanced tab. So the Advanced tab. And this allows you to specify a custom build file. Now, all DITA Open Toolkit transformations are implemented as Apache Ant transformations, which are based on a build file, which looks like this example here. So in this tab, you get the opportunity to specify a custom build file, and this is an example of how this build file might look like. So very important, the first step is to import the default build file from the DITA Open Toolkit. After that, you can do some other processing. For example, this example sets a few parameters, a few properties, and again, very important, you have to call the DITA Open Toolkit default target, and which is init, and that's how you basically start the publishing chain. The last thing you can change in a scenario in the Output tab, it's pretty self-explanatory. You set the directory where the output should be generated, whether it should be open in a browser or in an editor inside oXygen, and so on. So that's pretty much everything you can control from a scenario. Now let's focus on a new type of output available in oXygen, and I'm talking about the WebHelp Responsive. We call it responsive because it has the ability to adapt to every screen size in order to offer the best experience. So let's have a closer look at what functionality it offers. So like I said, it is adaptive. It will adapt to every screen size, and the first thing you might notice are these beautiful tiles that are automatically created from all first level topics in your DITA maps. once you go inside the topic, you will have a side table of contents on the right to help you navigate through the documentation. Other than that, on the top side you have a menu which is again generated from the map structure. There's an index term generated from your index terms, and of course there's a search field. If we search for something, we'll get all the topics that match that particular searched criteria. Also, if you set the language attribute on your map, then all the static labels in the WebHelp will be localized. And once you go into a topic, all matched words will be highlighted. Right, so this is the WebHelp Responsive. There are two types of templates available for the WebHelp Responsive. The first one is the one that uses styles for the first level templates, the one I've already presented. And the second template uses a tree instead of tiles. So you'll have a tree for the first two levels of topics. That's the difference between the two. More than that, for each type of template, we offer a number of predefined styling. We call them skins. So you can choose how your WebHelp should look like and publish. So let's publish. In the past webinars, we've worked on a user guide for a mobile phone. Let's publish this user guide into the WebHelp Responsive output. For that, I'll go to oXygen, and in the available scenarios, I'll identify the one that says DITA Map WebHelp Responsive. Let's duplicate it and call it for my mobile phone. And although the flowers skin looks really beautiful, I don't think it will go too well for a mobile phone user guide, so we better go with the default oXygen skin. And we apply the scenario, and now the transformation is running. You can see this little progress bar here. It's a hint that the transformation is running. And we get our first published documentation. Right. Now, although we try to offer a lot of predefined skins and templates, no matter how many we create, we're not gonna fulfill all requirements and all needs. And having that in mind, we try to offer as many customization hooks as possible. So, for example, inside a company, there is a specific color theme, and probably the same color theme should be applied on the WebHelp. So, the WebHelp should be highly customizable. So, let's try and identify a few customization scenarios and see how we can achieve them. So, a first customization scenarios that we've encountered is that to provide a welcome phrase for those that are arriving on your help platform. And because I lack imagination, let's just say welcome to our help platform, right? And for use cases just like this, we've predefined a number of placeholders into our pages, and you can provide HTML blocks to fill them up. And for each such placeholder, there is a parameter in the transformation. So let's switch to oXygen, we'll edit the scenario again, and on the Parameters tab, let's use this filter on top to search for the parameter we need. So it's this one, the WebHelp fragment welcome. And if we search the filters, you'll see that there are quite a few such fragments. Like I've said, a lot of predefined placeholders. So the value for this parameter, we can either browse for an HTML file, or if the fragment is short enough, like it is in our case, we can give it in line like this. Okay, and let's generate the documentation again and see how it looks like with a new welcoming phrase. Yes, so probably users will feel much better now. It says, welcome to our help platform. It gets better and better. Another common use case is that to provide tiles for images for your tiles. Now just look how bare our tile looks like when compared to a tile from that flowers user guide that I've presented in the beginning. And not only will the tiles look better, but they will be more intuitive. I mean, the users will just need to scan the tiles, and they'll automatically realize where they want to go. And another thing that I've noticed in my WebHelp is that I have a tile created from the copyright topic. So I have this because, like I said, tiles are automatically created from all the first level topics. But because yes, but in my case, there's no point in having a copyright tile. I just want tiles focused on flows, on actions. So to solve these two use cases, we can use the metadata mechanism. So we've added the possibility to add metadata into your map, such as these. So we can say that for a WebHelp tile, this image should be presented on the tile. Or we can say this WebHelp tile should be hidden. I'll switch to oXygen and I'll just open my map, and to speed things up, I've already added these blocks, but they are commented, so I'll just uncomment the blocks. And to transform, to publish again, I won't go to configure transformation scenarios. I can just click apply, and the scenario that I've associated with will automatically be executed. Right, and now I have this images. Oh, it looks a lot better now. And but you'll notice that something is wrong. So my descriptions are now outside of the tiles. So because the tile is not tall enough to accommodate both the description and the image, and also the copyright tile is gone. So let's solve this problem here with the bleeding text. But before that, I noticed that when I've set my welcoming phrase, I forgot to properly close my italic tag, and as a side effect, everything now is italic. So let's make the tiles taller. Now, to do that, we'll change an existing skin. And what does that mean is I will contribute a little CSS to fix things up. And as a side note, what we've done with the images and with the hidden tiles, we could do that through this little CSS too, but I wanted you to see the metadata method too. So first of all, we need to identify which CSS rules imposes this height on the tile. And to do that, we'll use the inspect feature on the browser, and we'll identify, there's not much screen estate to this resolution, but I think we can handle. So we will identify the div element of the tile, and we see here on the right side the CSS rule that imposes this fixed height. So I will select this rule and copy it, go to oXygen and create a new CSS file. Let's save it somewhere on the disk. Like this. Let's paste the rule and keep just the height property, and let's make our tile a bit taller, like this. And now that we have the CSS, we'll go to the scenario again and edit it, and to the parameters again. And this time, on the args CSS parameter, we will browse for our newly created CSS, and let's also tell it to copy this CSS to the output directory through this additional parameter. And let's publish again and see if we've managed to fix the height issue. Yes, so the tiles are now taller, and my short descriptions fit quite nice in this new height. So we're done with this. Now let's take another use case. For example, let's add an image with our mobile phone on the home screen. Now, if we can achieve this through the same method with that small CSS that we've contributed, but I want to show you a different method, so let's do it differently. Let's create a new skin, and usually you will feel the need to create a new skin when you have to change a lot of things, so your new skin is really different from a default one, so it's not just changing a height or an image. And a skin is basically a directory located at this predefined location, and this directory contains a CSS with a predefined name, skin CSS, and a thumbnail which will be presented in the scenario dialog when you select the skin, and additional resources like images. So let's create a new skin. For that, I will go on disk to the location that I've presented, and I will copy the oXygen skin I'll use it as a starting point, and let's call it mobile phone, and let's copy the image of our phone inside the resources image directory, and let's copy a different thumbnail, one that presents a little phone on the left to help us select it, identify it. And now we have the CSS of the skin. We can open it inside oXygen, but again we don't know which rule we should modify. So I'll go to the browser again, and I'll inspect the search area to see which rule I have to change. And as you can see, this is the div, and this CSS rule here on the right contributes this pattern image on the right side, so it's this one over here. So this is the rule that I want to modify. I'll copy the selector and find the rule here in the skin CSS. Now, because I don't want to get anything wrong, instead of typing it myself, I will just copy it to also speed things up. So what I've changed here is that on the background, as a background image, I now have two images, one with my phone and the default one with a pattern, and the phone image will be on the left and the pattern on the right, just as before. Let's save the skin and edit the scenario again, and now we should see here a skin that is called mobile phone and has this particular phone here in the thumbnail. We'll select this skin and publish our documentation again, and we should have a phone image on the home screen if we didn't forget anything. Right, so it gets better and better, if I can say so myself. We have the image, we have the beautiful tiles. Now there's just one last thing that I want to change, and it regards the side table of contents. Now, call me a conservative, but I am used to seeing a table of contents on the left, not on the right. So let's move it on the left. And to do that, we'll have to create a new template, or otherwise modify the existing template. A template is also a directory, a collection of resources located at this predefined location. And by default, our templates are based on the Bootstrap front-end framework. So in this case, to achieve the current use case, we'll have to edit this Bootstrap template. A good reason why you would want to create a new template would be maybe if you want to use a different front-end framework instead of Bootstrap. So let's create a new template. Again, we will go on disk, on the location, on that predefined location. We'll duplicate the Bootstrap-based templates. Let's call it somehow. And from the skins, let's remove the three skins, and let's keep just the mobile phone skin that we've previously created. We can call this folder tiles with left side talk, like so. And oops, almost forgotten. let's edit the template like I said and move the table of contents on the left. So let's identify the navigation container. I think it's this one. So this is the navigation container for the sides table of content, and we'll move it up a bit to make it appear on the left, like so. And now all we have to do is edit the scenario again, and on the bottom you will see our new templates. The one with the left side table of contents. We select the mobile phone skin, and we publish again, and hopefully everything will be perfect now. And so let's, if we go here, we see the side talk is now on the left instead of on the right. Well, with that, I think we've finished what I've wanted to show you about the responsive web help and its customizations. But some people like a more traditional web help, one with a 3-pane layout that has a search field on the top and the table of content on the left, just the way I like it, and the central area for the actual content. And we also have such an output. We call it the WebHelp Classic. And you can choose, we have a number of skins for it too. You can choose one of the predefined skins, or you can use our skin builder to create your own skin. To publish, let's also publish our user guide into the Classic Web Help. And to publish in the Classic Web Help, again, it's just a scenario, the DITA Map WebHelp Classic. So let's duplicate it. This is the mobile phone. And like I said, you can choose between one of the predefined skins, or after you've identified the skin that you like but you still want to change a bit, you can click Online Preview, and the sample of that skin will be open inside the browser. You can get a closer look at how it looks like. And another thing you can do from the top here, if you click Select Skin, you will have this Customize Skin link. And if you click it, you'll be able to customize this skin inside our skin builder. So for example, we can so for example, we can change the background color here in the header, and maybe do some other changes. And when we're happy with the way it looks like, we can click Export, and we'll get a CSS, a skin CSS. Let's save it and locate it. Here it is. Let's copy it to a better location. And now inside oXygen, to use this predefined skin, we will browse for this CSS and just publish our user guide, and we should have a WebHelp Classic variant. And here it is. Not the best background color in the header, but you got the idea. Moving forward, so we've managed to publish our the documentation for our mobile phone, and users will be able to reach it and search for what they desired. But what it will happen when a user doesn't find the content it needs at a specific page? How will it give us the feedback so that we can improve our documentation? Well, as far as the WebHelp is concerned, you can use our feedback system, which is available both for the responsive and the classic variants of the WebHelp. And again, this is just another scenario, either the WebHelp Responsive with feedback or the WebHelp Classic with feedback. And what you will get is a section like this at the bottom of each page. So a user will be able to add new comments either anonymously or they can log in and post afterwards. And you will receive emails when a new comment is added, and you will be able to reply to the comment. And if the user logged in before posting the comment, then he will also receive an email with a notification. Otherwise, it will just have to poll that page until it sees your reply. But it's up to the user. Now, let's move from the WebHelp to PDF, and let's talk about a different kind of generating PDF, one that is based on CSS. Now, by default, the Open Toolkit comes with a PDF output, which is based on XSL formatting objects. So the question would be, why would a new PDF transformation be needed? Well, for once, from time to time, users want to change a bit the way their PDF looks, and a lot more end users are comfortable with CSS. So they would be able to more easily make the changes in the PDF. And even if they don't know CSS, CSS is much easier to learn than XSLFO. Although XSLFO is quite powerful, it is also a bit complex. And in the end, you would have the same technology for styling both your HTML outputs and your PDF ones. And that's also a plus. So having these in mind, we've developed a DITA Open Toolkit plugin for generating PDF based on CSS. And this plugin is available on GitHub. It is an open source plugin. You can take a look at it, see how we've done it if you're curious. And there are two engines that we support, PrincePrint with CSS or Antenna House Formatter. And there are parameters through which you specify which of these two engines to be used. Now let's also publish our user guide in the PDF. So it's this DITA Map PDF WYSIWYG transformation. We will select it and apply it, and we'll get a PDF variant of our user guide. Right, so this is the PDF. Now, like I said, sometimes you want to change some small things in the PDF. So for example, let's assume that I want to make the titles red so they stand out more. So I'm going to show you how easy that is. I'll close this. So inside oXygen, I'll open a topic from my map, the introduction for example, and I'll select the Inspect Style action from the contextual menu. And this is the CSS inspector, and in it I can see which CSS rules make the title look as it does. And I can open this CSS file and I can say right here color red. When I return to the topic, I refresh it, and now my title is red. Now all I have to do to get, I will generate the PDF again, and you will notice that the titles will also be red, color red in the PDF, like this. So this is it's an interesting concept of single styling. So the same CSSs are used both for the author mode, because the author mode layout is driven by CSS, and for generating PDF. Okay. Now let's talk a bit about change tracking and comments. oXygen has support for adding comments and for recording all changes performed inside the topic. So for example, it records all deleted content or inserted content. You can add comments, you can reply to comments, and mark it as done when you've done what the comment suggested. And although we personally recommend reviewing to be performed directly on the XML source, we received requests from our users to bring this comment and changes in the PDF, because some users use the PDF for reviewing. So they publish their documentation in PDF, and after that they send the PDF to different departments or different reviewers who add comments all over the PDF, and after that they have to bring those comments into the XML content. And like I said, although we don't think this kind of a review is really efficient, we listen to these users. So what you can do now, if you publish your documentation to PDF using this new transformation, there is a parameter that you can set. It's called show changes and comments. And if we set this parameter to yes, and we publish our user guide to PDF again, you will see that all these changes are present in the PDF too. So now if you so desire, you can take the PDF and send it to review. The same, oops, that was too fast. The same support is also available for the WebHelp outputs. So if you want, there is a parameters, and if you set it, all the track changes and comments will also be present in your WebHelp output. And that brings in an interesting use case. So here is what I've did. Oops. So I took my documentation, my mobile phone documentation, and I've put it on GitHub, in a project on GitHub, like this. And I've configured Travis, which is GitHub Continuous Integration Server system, so Travis. I've configured it to automatically publish my documentation into the WebHelp output. So now, at a predefined URL on GitHub, I have available the WebHelp output. And in it, as you can see, I have all my comments and track changes. Now what I can do now is I can copy this URL and send it to a reviewer, a developer, or a subject matter expert. And that reviewer will open it and see what I see, all these comments, all these changes, and when he wants to give me feedback, he'll be able to click on this link, Edit on GitHub. This link is contributed through a DITA Open Toolkit plugin that we've developed. And when the reviewer clicks on this link, that particular DITA topic will be opened inside the oXygen web author. So the reviewer can now either reply to the comment and say, that's correct. It can make some changes. That will be recorded as track changes, and after that he will commit these changes on GitHub like that, and automatically Travis will pick up the commit message and it will start a new build, and it will publish again the WebHelp at the same location. So I will be able to see visually what change it performed. I will be able to edit it myself using the oXygen web author, and when I'm glad with the end result, when I'm glad how it finished, I can take my topics from GitHub and commit it in my real versioning system or CMS, because usually writers want to have this control of controlling when something is committed and how, in which form. So now the build is running, as you can see, and at the end the new version of the WebHelp will be published. Build successful. Yes, apparently it has finished, or not. It's probably still not done yet. Okay, so no point. Oh, it's still running. Elapsed time 52 seconds. Deploy. So now it's done. Let's refresh it. Right, and here are my changes: the inserted content, my reply to this comment, and so on. So that's an interesting way of using the publishing chain to also involve reviewers. And with that, we reach the end of this webinar. Thank you very much for attending it. I hope you found it interesting. If you have any questions that you didn't already ask, please ask them now. Thank you very much.
Alex, that was great. Thanks for a very interesting presentation. I enjoyed the way in which you showed our users how they can use the CSS inspector in a browser to fish for various CSS selectors and modify them. And I think that CSS inspector in a web browser is the base for creating lots of interesting CSS customizations, not only to our WebHelp Responsive but to any HTML-based output. And one thing about the WebHelp Responsive is that it can also be available offline. So if you have an application which needs an offline help, you can have WebHelp Responsive output bundled together with the application and when the application is installed locally, you can connect from the application, from various contexts in the application, and open a web browser with the offline version of the WebHelp page that explains a feature in your application. This interesting idea that you showed at the end, that you can publish to WebHelp and allow people to contribute changes directly via GitHub, it is a feature that we are starting to integrate in our own WebHelp, which is produced for the oXygen users manual, and we want to empower engineers to make changes and to remove things like reviewing via a PDF from the workflow. So to have a workflow in which the WebHelp is produced, the engineer can edit that WebHelp, and then the documentation team can review those changes and accept back into the trunk. Moving on to the questions. One question is, can you show more than 2 levels in the tree? So this question is related to the WebHelp Responsive, which indeed its table of contents is more limited. It only has 2 levels right now, but we will register this as a future improvement request. One more question. Besides the video of this presentation, are there steps described in the documentation? We have in the oXygen documentation an entire chapter which covers WebHelp Responsive and the possible way you can customize it. Do you plan to create an online scheme builder for the responsive help? We do have an issue registered for this. Personally, I would also like to have this feature in order to have completion for the entire WebHelp Responsive idea. But for now, you will have to duplicate an existing skin folder and perform your changes manually. As Alex showed you, you can use the CSS inspector built in most web browsers to find those selectors that you need to overwrite. You said, one more question, you said WebHelp Responsive adapts to the screen size, but so does the WebHelp Classic. What's the difference? Is it just a tile-based front-end instead of a tree-based table of contents? So the WebHelp Classic that does not adapt as easily to the screen size. Also, it has limitation when being used as offline help. So we consider the WebHelp Responsive the next generation of help, but we'll still maintain the WebHelp Classic as being a very popular online help output. How can the WebHelp, when licensed, be installed on several servers? So when you're producing WebHelp from oXygen, it is free and you own your produced content. But when you want to produce WebHelp in an automated process on a web server, like Alex showed you on a Travis server, for example, so you want to automatically start builds when DITA content get modified, you need a special WebHelp license, and you will need a separate license for each server. One more question, can more than one CSS file be added to a scenario? And in the transformation scenario, you saw those args CSS parameters, so that parameter can only point to a single CSS. You have other WebHelp specific parameters which can also be used to inject a CSS, but once you want to do further customization, you will probably need to copy the entire skin, the entire skin folder, duplicate it and make changes to that directory. When will the recording be available? We hope that in a couple of days we'll make it available both on our video presentations webpage and our YouTube channel. Are there tools to integrate in certain OS CMS like Easy Publishing or Typo3? We do not have any specific tools for this, so the DITA Open Toolkit can be run as an external process, and the WebHelp plugin can be integrated in the DITA Open Toolkit, and with that special license bought from us, you can automate this process and maybe run it from a CMS. And really good presentation by Alex. We would like to switch from the classic to responsive. A question from Telma. So I think most oXygen users will start considering switching to responsive, but will still preserve the classic, the WebHelp Classic, as a possible alternative to generate online help. And this concludes our presentation today. Besides the next Ready for DITA 1.3 webinar presented by Alex on September, for which you can already register. If you want to meet the oXygen team, will be at TCOM this November in Stuttgart, Germany, and will also be at the DITA Europe conference in November in Munich. Before the DITA Europe conference, we'll organize the DITA-OT Day, the day dedicated to DITA Open Toolkit developers, and we'll keep developing and improving these output formats that Alex showed you today. And thanks for answering the polls at the beginning, because they really help us find directions for our future development. Alex, do you have anything to add?
Well, just to thank you all again for attending the presentation. I hope you will also come to the next webinar, the one in which we will present the DITA 1.3 features, because they're really interesting features and they can solve a lot of problems. So, thank you and see you at the next webinar.
Thanks for attending, everybody. You will get a recording in a couple of days via email, and if you have further questions, you know our email address, and we're always happy to answer them. Thank you very much.